Coming up tonight on the news at 6.
Cars were lined up starting at 6:15 this morning.
Healthcare workers line up early for their COVID-19 vaccine as distribution expands in Lewis and Clark County. Plus, details on just how many spectators will be allowed to watch winter sports in person in Helena.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 6.
Good evening. Welcome to the News at 6. I'm Marian Davidson. Thanks for joining us. Well, our top story tonight at 6, Public Health partnered with St. Peter's Health and PureView to begin broad vaccinations of healthcare workers in Lewis and Clark County. MTN's John Riley was at the fairgrounds this morning for the clinic.
Hundreds of frontline healthcare workers, including dentists, long-term care facility staff, private practitioners, and more, got their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine Tuesday morning as the county began phase 1 of vaccine distribution. Those getting vaccinated expressed emotions of joy and relief as they began their first step towards being protected from COVID.
I mean, it's just been a long time coming. You know, I'm just ready for this whole thing to be behind us, and it really feels good to be part of the solution. You know?
There are around 6,000 healthcare workers in the county. More than 1,000 have already begun their vaccination process. Vaccination staff were upbeat Tuesday morning and described it as a historic day on the path towards returning to some normalcy.
It is so exciting. We were here at 6 in the morning. Cars were lined up starting at 6:15 this morning. We are so happy to be able to provide this service for the healthcare professionals in our community. This is a big day.
I stood here when I first got here this morning and got choked up because it is a beautiful day. The vaccine is safe, and it is the one thing that's going to get us over the hump and back to some sense of normal.
Be it those giving the shot or those receiving one, there's no denying people are excited. However, this is just the beginning. There's still a lot left to go before the majority of the population is vaccinated and things can go back to normal. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Once healthcare workers and long-term care facility residents are vaccinated, the county will begin phase 1B, which includes people over 75, teachers, food service employees, police, and other first responders. Now, the timeline of the next phase is greatly dependent on how many vaccine doses the state receives. Now, taking a look at Montana's COVID-19 situation, COVID-19 deaths continue to climb in the state, even as active cases and hospitalizations fall to levels not seen in months. Local and state numbers show 5 additional deaths, raising the statewide death total to 979. While active cases have fallen to around 5,300, active hospitalizations rose slightly from yesterday to 218. MTN uses a combination of state and locally confirmed data, and because of that, our numbers may differ from the state dashboard. And this afternoon, on Monday afternoon, Helena Public Schools released their 2021 winter sports season spectator guidelines. MTN's Sam Hoyle breaks down what it means for fans hoping to attend events.
On Monday, Helena Public Schools announced its spectator plan for the winter sports season, and as of right now, spectators will be capped at 25 people or less per the press release, and that goes in line with a Lewis and Clark public health order limiting gatherings to 25 people or less.
In the fall, teams were allotted 2 spectators per home participant, and visitors were allotted 1 spectator. Now, each home participant will be limited to 1 spectator, with other limitations depending on the size of the team competing. As winter sports begin shortly after the turn of the new year, both the Helena High and Helena Capital wrestling teams will square off against one another for their crosstown bout on January 5th. Per the press release from Helena Public Schools, only spectators from the hosting school will be permitted into the venue. Another caveat is Helena Public Schools will also be spacing out the timing of the spectators. Spectators will only be allowed into the gyms 20 minutes before the scheduled game time, but they will also only be able to watch the games their athlete is participating in, which means a parent of a varsity player will not be permitted into the gym while the junior varsity game is going on, even if that runs into that 20-minute window. Helena Public Schools also noted in the press release that if Lewis and Clark Public Health lessens the restrictions on gatherings, they will then submit a new plan to introduce more spectators.
Much like last fall, passes will be interchangeable inside direct family groupings. So, for instance, say mom can't make it to the game because she's stuck at work, dad can still go to the game as long as they have that pass. And spectators, when they get inside the sporting events facility, they will be asked to adequately social distance from one another, and once the game is over, they must clear out of the facility immediately. Reporting in Helena, Sam Hoyle, MTN Sports.
All right, well, we've got Andy Curtis holding it down in the Weather Center for Curtis Grevenitz tonight, and it looks like we've got another cold night out there.
Yep, that's right. Temperatures are dipping down into the low 20s and high teens, and that's going to be the case moving forward. But our daytime temperatures will be creeping up into the 40s and even high 40s this weekend as we start 2021. Taking a look across the state right now, pretty boring nights. Little bit of snow on the forecast, coming out here over the western border. I'll tell you about that in the full forecast, about how much we can expect and where we can expect to see that tomorrow. Taking a look at Great Divide, there's some snow for you. Will they get any help up on the slopes? You have to pay attention and stick around for the full forecast on that. Windy tomorrow across the states, but we will see a good amount of sunshine, and that wind will die down a little bit as we hit the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
All right, thanks, Andy. On the Senate floor today, Democrats are trying to force Republicans to pass a bill raising COVID-19 relief payments for Americans from $600 to $2,000. The effort blocked by Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. McConnell breaking with a growing number of GOP members and with President Donald Trump, who earlier today called on Republicans to deliver the $2,000 payments. The Senate plans a vote tomorrow on overriding President Trump's veto of the critical defense spending bill. Senator Bernie Sanders is threatening to delay the veto override unless Leader McConnell allows a full vote on the increased stimulus payments.
I would urge my colleagues to support this legislation one more time when we vote tomorrow.
Working families need help now.
Well, for now, the administration is moving ahead with the plan to send out the $600 payments as soon as this week. And we reached out to our senators. Republican Steve Daines says, quote, President Trump has raised several important issues Congress must address, including reforming Section 230 to prevent big tech from silencing conservative voices and election reform so all Americans, regardless of political party, can have faith in our elections. I stand with the president in addressing these issues and urge Congress to come together and act quickly. A spokesman for Democrat Senator John Tester says Tester supports a $2,000 stimulus payment. And still ahead on the news at 6, the Lewis and Clark County Commission welcomes Tom Rolfe and says goodbye to Susan Goode-Giese.
Hannah's News Leader. You're watching MTN News at 6.
Welcome back to the News at 6. Thanks so much for spending some time with us this evening. Well, this week is a transition for the Lewis and Clark County Commission as the newest member comes in and an outgoing member steps back. This morning, the county held a swearing in for newly elected Commissioner Tom Rolfe of Helena. Attorney General Tim Fox, a longtime friend, administered the oath of office. Rolfe had a long career in auto sales. He is the first county commissioner chosen in a nonpartisan election after voters approved the switch last year. Rolfe says on the commission he plans to work on mental health issues and on coordinating with local businesses. He says he's honored to be serving the people of the county.
I'd like to hear from them. As much as possible, I'd like to hear what their concerns are. Whether they think they agree with me or not. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Today's meeting was also the last for Commissioner Susan Goode-Giese. She has already cleared out her office, though her term extends through Thursday. Giese was appointed to the commission in 2013 and elected to a full 6-year term in 2014. She says this year was challenging as the commission dealt with COVID-19 and the contentious Valley zoning proposal she spearheaded. She said she is grateful for her time in office, but she is ready to move on.
Leaving is a little bit bittersweet in that I have adored the work. I love the work. But you know what? I've had my turn. I've had my turn.
Rolfe's first official meeting as commissioner will be next Tuesday, January 5th. Crazy to believe that January is that soon, as is 2021. And
That's
here's
right.
another look at the weather and maybe what's coming up for January. Andy?
Surprisingly, January 1st will be somewhat warm across the state. A little bit of a change from what we're seeing across the state tonight. I'll tell you about that coming up next. Welcome back, everybody. Andy Curtis filling in for Curtis Grevenitz once again this evening. Starting things off around Great Falls, 23 degrees up around the Electric City right now. And if you'll notice, and probably already did notice if you were outside, it feels like 11 degrees. So we are back in the full swing of winter temperatures across Montana. It's a cold one out there tonight, so dress accordingly. 28 degrees in Helena, feels a little bit warmer though. 20 degrees is what you will swear that it feels like if you step outside. And if you noticed up in Great Falls, and you'll notice right here too, wind almost non-existent tonight. Great Falls, Helena, a good chunk of the state fairly calm, which is a nice change of pace. That will change though, as you can see here, we go into tomorrow, and that wind will start to whip up just a little bit more than what we were seeing today, especially along the Rocky Mountain front. But that's no surprise to anybody who watches us and has been up there. It's a very windy portion of our state, and wind will continue to go to the higher ranges, 20, 30 miles per hour tomorrow. But as we get into the back end of Wednesday and the start of Thursday, it's actually going to start to calm down pretty good. So New Year's Eve might not be that windy of a day, so a pretty calm send-off to 2020. And as we head into Friday, New Year's Day, things actually are looking pretty good. Temperatures, you'll see, are going to be suspiciously warm, and wind will almost be non-existent compared to what we're seeing tomorrow and what we've seen the past couple of weeks. Temperatures across the state, like I was saying just a couple minutes ago, very chilly, or getting to be very chilly. 18 in Lewistown, 15 in Havre, Cut Bank 23, so low 20s, mid to high teens on the thermometer. Feels a lot colder than that. And we won't be seeing much to accompany those cooler temperatures and windy conditions tomorrow. In our neck of the woods, out to the west, though, we are expecting, as you can see, creeping over the border, just a little bit of snow. Now, the snow could accumulate to be a couple of inches, 3 inches maybe in the higher elevations up in the northwest part of the state. But around Helena, Great Falls, if it does come through, it really won't amount to much down there on the ground, especially at some of the lower elevations like the Helena Valley and areas around there. So if we do see snow up around here where you're watching right now, it might be up in the higher elevations, but really that's going to be the case out to the west. Kalispell especially, you can see by tomorrow at 3 o'clock, they're expecting some snow, but it will be blocked by the Continental Divide, acting once again as a snow fence for the rest of us. So taking a quick look at the 7-day forecast as we start making our plans for New Year's Eve, are staying in New Year's Eve for most of us. Things are going to be looking pretty good out there. Now tomorrow, slight chance of snow, like I said, and that wind whipping up just a little bit and carrying over into Thursday, but really Thursday not so bad. Not as bad as we were expecting yesterday with the wind. 28 miles per hour really isn't that awful. Slight 14 to 18 mile per hour breeze, but sun is looking pretty good, and those temperatures are pushing 50 degrees as we head into the first weekend of 2021. Then down around Helena, temperatures a little bit cooler, but still not too bad. 38, so we're pushing 40 degrees. We're going to cross that 40-degree threshold as we head into the weekend. Another slight chance of snow this Sunday. But other than that little bit of wind we can expect tomorrow and into Thursday, I'd say it's looking like a pretty good end to 2020.
All right, thanks for that, Andy. Coming up, a Montana man recounts his days behind the controls of one of the country's most successful spy planes.
As news leader, you're watching MTN News at 6.
Welcome back to the News at 6. In 1960, the U-2 spy plane flew onto the world scene when American pilot Gary Powers was shot down over Russian airspace and captured. 2 years later, many Americans will recall that it was photographs taken from the U-2 that exposed the presence of Soviet missiles in Cuba, leading to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Tonight, MTN's Jay Cohn takes us into the cockpit of the famous U-2 spy plane that is still flying secret missions to this very day.
Fewer than 1,000 pilots have ever soloed at the controls of a U-2 plane. One of them lives outside of Livingston, Montana. Retired Air Force Colonel Ed Walby has logged more than 1,000 hours in the cockpit of a U-2, the plane nicknamed the Dragon Lady.
As you come down to land, you get within 10 feet of the runway, you're chased by another pilot. He calls out your altitudes. And when you get down to around 2 feet, you hope to have the airplane in a full stall. If you stall too high, the airplane drops and the airplane breaks in two, and you might get hurt. If you stall too low, it bounces, goes back up in the air, stalls again, and then the airplane drops and you break in two and you might get hurt. So it's difficult, plus you have the fishbowl on your head, the spacesuit. You've probably been flying 10, 12 hours, you're fatigued. Just all that stuff comes together, makes it really hard to fly. At altitude, it's easy, you got an autopilot, unless you lose the autopilot, and then you're in that coffin corner of 5 knots. Go too fast, you die, go too slow, you die.
But in spite of the inherent danger of flying a U-2, there's just something about flying at the edge of space.
When you're at 70,000 feet, you actually see the curvature of the Earth. This is either a sunrise or a sunset. There's a little piece of the moon showing. I actually saw Halley's Comet from altitude the last time it came through. Yeah, you can see the curvature of the Earth and the uniqueness of that sunrise. I think there's a sunrise. It's quite a neat place to be.
First proposed in 1953 under President Dwight Eisenhower, the U-2 was an immediate game changer in the international spy game. With a range of 7,000 miles and the ability to cruise at 70,000 feet, it could operate above the Soviet systems. To this day, the U-2 spy plane is considered the greatest intelligence breakthrough of the 20th century.
Folks that say, well, your cameras are so good you can actually read the license plate on a car, and I would tell them that's an exaggeration. From 70,000 feet, you don't have cameras that good that you could read the actual numbers on a license plate. What I can tell you is what kind of car it is, where it was manufactured, where it came from, where it's going, who's inside, who's male, who's female, what radio station they're listening to, how much gasoline's in the tank, how much oil's in the crankcase, and who they're communicating with if they're on a radio. But to say I could read the license plate would be an exaggeration.
Today, the modern version of the U-2 and its drone counterpart, the Global Hawk, are the front line of U.S. intelligence, involved in every major conflict and natural and man-made disasters since the mid-50s.
I flew over Rwanda during the slaughter of refugees during that conflict. We've been over Somalia, we've been over Mount St. Helens when it erupted. With Global Hawk and U-2, we took images of the reactors in Japan during the earthquake and the spread of radiation. We did the fires in California. We even searched for the Ark, Noah's Ark, using the radar and penetrating through the snow in Turkey. So some people say we found it, some people don't.
Colonel Walby retired to Montana several years ago. It was a homecoming of sorts, as he actually started his long Air Force career stationed at Minot Air Base in North Dakota. As you might expect, Colonel Walby has his share of harrowing moments in the cockpit of the U-2. Tomorrow he'll share some of those moments, including when he flew alongside the space shuttle in one of its first launches following the Challenger disaster. In Billings, I'm Jay Cohn reporting for MTN News.
All right, and we'll wrap things up here on the news at 6 when we come back.
As news leader, you're watching MTN News at 6.
There is a new Montana millionaire, so make sure to check those tickets. The Montana Lottery drew the winning numbers this morning with their random number generator machine. The 2020 grand prize winning number is, drumroll please, 125813. Tickets for the 2020 drawing of Montana Millionaire sold out in record time, with all tickets sold by November 23rd. Now, if you think your ticket may be a winner, the first thing you need to do is sign the back of it. A full list of all the winning ticket numbers for the other prizes can be found on our website, ktvh.com.
And a quick look at the forecast for the end of the year around the capital city. 35 for the high tomorrow. Very, very slight chance of snow. Only saying it because we might see it, but it won't really accumulate on the ground. Thursday and Friday, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, pushing the high end of the 30-degree range, almost 40 degrees, plenty of sunshine. So not a very bad way to end 2020. Then in Great Falls, up in Great Falls, a little warmer and a little windier as we head into the weekend, which could see 50 degrees.
All right, and that does it for the news at 6. We'll be back here at 10 with your latest local headlines, plus another look at that forecast. We'll see you then.